Kingdoms rise and empires crumble, and the knowledge and wisdom from past ages are lost to the foggy ruins of time. But for genuine seekers of truth, one place stands alone on a hill. Shining brightly in the darkness, you, dear listener, have reached the Hidden Citadel.
Hey, welcome to the Hidden Citadel.
You found us.
I'm Willie Minix, and I'm here with Greg Kemp, and we're going to talk about all sorts of crazy, awesome stuff today. Actually, we're going to continue our conversation from last time.
This is true.
And I am so excited about it. Okay, so last time I had like a page of notes left.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we'll finish it up next time. Maybe there'll be some more information I could do. I pulled on the thread, and the thread led to about 10 pages of notes. So there's no way we're going to get into everything today, but we can get into some interesting...
But we can try.
We can try. This may end up being a two-parter or a three-parter like the Mazzaroth, you know.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is already part 2, so there could be a third one.
Yep.
Anyway, what we're talking about is Genesis in the Chinese language. Several years ago, and I don't exactly know the date, I think it was sometime in the 70s or early 80s, Edith Kang was the wife, I believe, of a Chinese pastor, and he did a lot of research, and then after he passed away, she published his research. She was a linguist, and he noted that there were lots of parallels between the earliest form of Chinese writing and the book of Genesis.
Okay.
And so some of the writing I'm going to come to another screen here, and I wish I could show this to Greg, but he can't see it. He'll just have to watch the video later. But I found somebody else that already made a video of this. It's called The Chinese Language Teaches Genesis, and I don't even know what their name is, but they copied it from somebody else, because I actually watched the same video where somebody talked through this whole thing. So you can probably find the original video, and for the life of me, I shut the screen and I don't remember what the actual one was. But I'm going to go through a few of these to kind of show you the connection. Before we get rolling, Greg, do you want to give some sort of a connection between our theory about how the Tower of Babel event, sort of how we should be able to find traces of it throughout the world? I mean, isn't that kind of our philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, it really went, it's such a involved story, but the bottom line comes down to two things. One is that when the world was essentially rejecting God, or not the world, the peoples of this were unifying and saying, we're going to do things on we're going to create our own access, we're going to do all this, and God scattered their language, which means they scattered their thoughts, which means it almost kind of fragmented all their thinking, so that
and all their wisdom.
You could see that, but the truth that was a part of their original in unity that was still there, would seep into all the cultures that these peoples became. Now you fast forward to not only the time of Pentecost, where all of a sudden the languages, it's interesting because there's the tongues of fire, or whatever they were, right? And then there's the tongues of fire, and then people could hear. It doesn't say the tongues of fire were the reason there were tongues of fire, essentially as symbols of all the languages.
Something else that was happening.
All the languages were gathered there, essentially, and tongues of light, essentially. So it's like, the light and the language kind of came together, in the same way that would in Genesis 1, if you're going to really analyze it like that. So, but then they could all hear each other, they could all understand. Well, then you go, okay, wow, why could they understand? Well, they were almost given a glimpse of what it was like before the separation of the languages.
Exactly. Yep.
But since there was a separation of languages, a separation of cultures and of peoples that scattered all around the world, then when you go to the Great Commission, it's the language of the Great Commission is not what a lot of people. You've got to look at what's being said there. To all the nations, and the peoples, and that's different. And making disciples is making a disciple is not forcing someone to do anything.
It's making a new citizen of the kingdom of heaven.
Correct. And they have to disciples a follower, which means the volition is with the follower, not the imposing of volition.
Right.
Because that's not following. That's being a slave. It's being not free. So, you're looking at the Great Commission. You're looking at the resolve of where in rebellion all were scattered. Now in reunion all are gathered.
And then for the future, the Bible says that when the gospel, and this is where I depart ways with I guess you would call them post-millennialists.
Okay.
They believe that the world will get better and better and better, and the whole world will become a united kingdom under Christ. But that's not what the Bible says. It says when the gospel has been preached in every language, then the end will come.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that it's accepted in every kingdom.
That's true. That's true.
It's just that it's preached in every kingdom.
Yeah.
And we're really close to that. I mean, the Bible, I think when I was a kid, there were like 1,200 or 1,500 languages that still did not have the scripture in their own language. And I think we're down to under 400 now. And rapidly expanding. And so it's like probably within the next 10 years, they think that gap will be finished, and pretty much if not every single language, at least every language group will have the gospel in its native tongue. And that's pretty awesome.
Including the Agarthas, those guys from Antarctica.
The Agarthians, the people that live down in Antarctica past the wall.
We'll give you cold truth.
We're going to have to do an episode on that. I mean, I keep seeing these pictures showing videos of like icebergs, and they're like, look, it's the wall of Antarctica.
And they all look like Legolas. They all
right. It's like, sure.
Yeah. Good with both.
Anyway, to finish the Tower of Babel thing, because there was a scattering of knowledge, that means that certain things probably will show up over and over and over throughout the world that kind of are almost identical. And last time we talked about the Long U caves and how their structure is almost identical to cisterns that are found all over the world that date back to the ancient times. And so our theory that we're postulating is, okay, people understood how to build a cistern a certain way, and then when the Tower of Babel split everybody up, they took that kind of knowledge with them. And so we need to be looking at things of that nature that are common, everyday things that most people would have encountered at some point. And certainly a cistern where you go get water from would have been an everyday item that most people would have known about. And those sort of things are the things that if they pop up over and over and over throughout the world, then that's a clue that maybe the Tower of Babel actually happened.
Well, it's funny because we also talked about it a while ago when it came to the various pyramids or these structures that are throughout.
We're going to talk about that
that's
today,
what's so funny, too, because it's like, we're all going to band together and we're going to build this. And then when they're scattered, like, well, I don't remember what I was doing, but I feel like I need to build a tower where
it's something that has to be done.
I'm in Peru. What are you going to do? I just feel like I need to build a tower. What's it going to look like? I don't know. It's going to have perfect dimensions.
Like this.
And this big angelic guy who keeps,
he keeps telling me I got to do it.
Prince of my province is telling me what to do. He's giving me instructions on what to do. But I don't want to know.
Okay, so first we're going to talk about the Genesis in the Chinese language. And the first thing is the first symbol that this guy has is the symbol for elder brother, which is a mouth with legs, which basically means that he is the spokesperson for the family. And the symbol legs actually means person in Chinese. It's one of the, you can use mouth to mean person, and you can use legs to mean person. And when you put them together, you get the elder brother.
You get Megs.
And yeah, Megs. I don't understand necessarily what the pronunciation is, because the original pronunciation has changed, but this is symbolism that's common in both Cantonese and Mandarin, and also whatever the original Proto-Chinese language was called. So we're just going to kind of go with it. But when you combine them, that's what you get. The next symbol that I've got is an interesting one. It's the symbol of Shang-Ti or Shang-Ti, which this gets really fascinating. So Shang-Ti is the kingdom of heaven, or the king of heaven. All right, and the idea of Shang-Ti is that he sat on a throne.
Yeah.
He had a divine council that he encouraged the people to be righteous and to live righteously on the world, and that people had to offer sacrifices. So yeah, Shang-Ti is the high king of heaven. He has an imperial court. The imperial people in the court are the lower gods of the Chinese mythology. In order to appease the high king of heaven, you have to offer a sheep sacrifice on an altar that in a temple that is made up of two symbols, a square and a circle. The square is representative of the earth, and the circular part is representative of heaven. So it's earth coming to heaven through a sacrifice of a lamb.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? And you see that in the architecture of the Forbidden Kingdom, or the Forbidden Palace. We'll get into that later. So anyway, Shang-Ti is from the very first dynasty of China all the way up, which I believe the first dynasty, or actually Shang-Ti worship basically goes as far back as they can find, up until 50 BC, well, maybe about 300 BC or 200. Whenever Confucius lived, that's kind of the fall, or not the fall, but it's a change that sort of happened where they moved from Shang-Ti worship into Confucianism.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then from Confucianism into Buddhism, and somewhere in there, and I'm not exactly sure, Taoism sort of got developed too. And so the earliest worship, though, in systematized worship in China was the worship of Shang-Ti, the king of heaven.
Wow.
Also, there's something about the dragon, the yin yang, and the dragon and the phoenix, or sometimes in some cultures, parts of China, it's the dragon and the tiger, or the dragon and the lion represent the yin yang. And what the yin yang represented originally was the union of heaven with earth.
Yes.
And the original name of it, I wrote it down somewhere. We'll get to it eventually because of my notes. I've also got notes behind this screen, so I can't look at them yet. But there's a connection. But the original yin yang was a symbol of God uniting with man and having fellowship with man.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. So it's like if you have a friend that's cool, that likes the yin yang symbol and puts it on stuff, it's not necessarily an anti-Christian symbol. You know, it's actually, if you dig deep back, it's a very compatible Christian symbol that maybe you can kind of use as a witnessing tool to your friend.
Yeah.
So Buddha was born around 600 BC, but it took until 50 BC before Buddhism got to China, which I thought was an interesting thing because that's a long time. And what that basically means is that Sun Tzu, we talked last time about Sun Tzu and Daniel living around the same time.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu would have been a follower probably of Shang-Ti.
Yeah.
And not a Buddhist, which I thought was pretty interesting. And so then you get into these other symbols. Let me see if I can find the next the next one on here. Oh, there on the screen, there's a symbol of Shang-Ti and a little bit of a timeline down at the bottom. You can see the beginning of the Chinese language up to the first 5 books of the Bible when they were written, to the birth of Buddhism, to the death of Jesus, and then to today. I'm going to skip ahead and see if we can find the next symbol. Maybe I don't have a picture of it. Whoop, here we go. Okay, well, they don't have this one. I'll just give this one to you. The symbol for boat is actually a vessel, the symbol of vessel, with the symbol for 8 mouths. So it's 8 plus vessel plus mouths.
Yep.
Or people. It basically means 8 people in a boat or in a vessel is the word for boat.
Yep.
The word for create is the symbol for motion plus the symbol for reveal and word plus the symbol for earth. So you've got earth, the word, and motion all combined, and that's what create is. Then you've got righteousness is a symbol for a lamb mixed with the symbol for me underneath it. So it's I am underneath a lamb and therefore I am now righteous.
Yep.
You know, and it goes back to the sacrifice. You needed a sacrifice, not a bull, not a goat, not a chicken, not a person,
Capybara.
Not, not a panda, but a sheep had to be sacrificed in early China to appease Shang-Ti and to cover your sins. Here's the other thing too. Not just anybody was allowed to make the sacrifice.
Ooh, here we go.
Only the king was allowed once a year, and it was on the winter solstice.
Yeah.
He had to go ascend the steps of the Forbidden City. Yeah. Which was interesting about the Forbidden City is so many of the symbolism about the building is in the letter 3. Or I mean the number 3. So there's 3 gates. One gate for Shang-Ti, one gate for the gods that are in his council, and then one gate for the emperor, you know? And when the emperor would go up there, he was the only one that was allowed to make the sacrifice to cover for the sins of his people. You know, and once he made the sacrifice, then all the people were covered, and and it was accepted by Shang-Ti, and then he would descend, and that would be kind of the end of it. Yeah. Until the next winter solstice. Here's an interesting one. The word for command is when you take... the word for forbid is... I'll get to this in just a second. The word for forbid is 2 trees plus the symbol for command. So there's a commandment concerning 2 trees, and it means to forbid. Wow. And guess what that word is in Chinese? It's jinn. Oh. And we've talked about how in jinn, in the genie sense, it actually means hidden or concealed. Yep. And then also in Hebrew, the word is gone. And I guess I forgot to write what word it is, but in one of the Middle Eastern languages, it's either Arabic or Hebrew, the word jannah means garden or paradise, and it comes from the same root word. So you got forbidden, garden, paradise, genies, all these coming
2 trees.
From 2 trees, all of this kind of coming from a different word. And the Proto-European word or Indo-European word is kem, K-E-M, which is to cover or to conceal. And so basically you've got all these related words that aren't really supposed to be related, but they pop up over and over again throughout all these different languages, and they mean, something that actually connects with the story of Genesis. So thought that was neat. Now I've got a whole bunch of them written on a piece of paper, and I'm gonna clear out this one because it seems to be kind of hard to find, and I'm going to just maybe show my paper to the screen
All right.
when I can. For the first one, I've got the word migrate, and it's when you take the symbol great, division, west, and walk, and you put them together, you get the word migrate. And see if I can show that there to the screen. Well, why would there be a great division in the west? Because west of China was where the Tower of Babel happened, where there was a great division, and they had to walk away from it, and so it was a migration.
Yep.
Not a great division in the east or the north or the south, but specifically in the west. To talk is when you take the word dust, mouth, and alive and put them together. Isn't that interesting?
That's wild.
To create, we already did this one, but it's to talk and to walk is another symbol for create when you put them together. Beginning is when you put two people and you bring them together, the symbol for two and the symbol for people, and that's the beginning. First is the symbol alive plus dust plus man. So the verse man brought to life, is or a man from the dust brought alive is first. We talked about forbidden being two trees and a command.
Yeah.
Let's see, where are we? Happiness, this is interesting. When you add Shang-Ti plus the letter 1, man, and a garden together. So you got one man in a garden with Shang-Ti, and that's the thing, and it means blessing or happiness. And I'll just show the
crazy
symbol right there. This is the symbol for Shang-Ti. This is man, and that's a garden. I'll show Greg real quick.
Wow.
So isn't that wild?
That's
you
wild.
Put a man in a garden with God, and you get happiness.
That's the goal of everything.
Now, the interesting thing, earlier we talked about walking from the west is what caused the, migration. Well, the word west is actually one person in an enclosed garden is the word for west.
Wow. Where was the banishment from Eden?
Yeah, they had to go east. And so that would have been west.
If they were remaining in the west, would be remaining in the garden.
Yep.
Wow.
So to desire is when you take west plus a woman, and then you get the word desire.
Yeah.
To covet is when you take two trees plus a woman.
Go back.
Oh, so desire is west plus a woman.
Right. So it
makes desire.
Right. So it's Adam West.
Adam West with Catwoman.
Adam and West.
Yeah, and West. There you go. So covet is two trees and a woman.
Yeah.
And think about that.
That's
if
crazy.
I was an ancient person, you wouldn't think of a woman coveting a tree.
Yeah.
You would think about a woman coveting the neighbor's, pot or something, or baking pan or something. You would think that's women at that time period were typically the ones taking care of the household. Maybe they're coveting the next lady's children
Thou
or
shalt
something.
not covet thy neighbor's pot.
Yeah, right. But why is she coveting two trees?
I know. It's like, I feel like there's some Chinese Seinfeld guy. He's like, what's with this? There's two trees. How's that coveting?
Yeah, and for all you feminists out there, number one, I don't care. And number two, it's just the historical accuracy is that at that time period in China, women were pretty much doing most of the cooking. So, I mean, I'm trying to think about what would they covet?
Yeah.
Maybe another spoon or something. I don't know. But why two trees? It's just a very strange thing. I know. I was going to say I do care, but no, I don't care. I don't care about feminism. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. That's just not my problem. There's plenty of pro-feminist channels out there that you can go enjoy. And maybe the Hidden Citadel is just not your favorite channel, but it should be.
It should be.
Naked is an interesting one. It's when you take a man plus the word fruit, and that means naked.
Well,
There's a joke in there
yeah,
too.
there's
I'm
a lot of
sure.
jokes in there.
But you would think it'd be more of a nut tree than.
Yeah. And a banana.
Yeah, right. And then when you add the word clothing and fruit, it's another word that means naked. So it's just kind of an interesting thing.
For the womb.
Word for devil
Okay.
is when you take life or motion plus secret plus garden plus man. And that makes the word for Satan or devil.
What?
Yeah, life, motion,
Yep.
secret, garden, and man. And then if you take the devil symbol and you add 2 trees and a cover symbol, a symbol that means to cover,
Yeah.
you end up with the word tempted or temptation.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, why was you have a devil with 2 trees?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's a very interesting concept, and he's covering something
Yep.
or hiding.
Yep.
And then if you take the word...
Well, hiding is deceiving, by the way. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah.
If you again take the 2 trees and you add the symbol for a piece of something, you get the word for pain. So it was a piece of something that came from 2 trees that caused pain.
Wow.
And a symbol that's related to 2 trees is the word weeds, which is a shortened, abbreviated version of 2 trees. Mm-hmm. And you add that to the word ancient, or the symbol ancient, and you get the word for sorrow, which I thought's kind of interesting.
Very
so
interesting.
Ancient weeds is sorrow. Mm-hmm. Then if you take, we talked about the elder brother, his pronunciation is shun. If you add that with a mouth and a man, you get shun, which is elder brother. But if you put an X on top of the elder, or an X looking symbol mm-hmm. on top of the elder brother, you get shun also, which it's pitch tone, so I may not be pronouncing it right, mm-hmm. but that means cruel and violent. So Cain was the elder brother who was cruel and violent. Check this out. If you take, we're getting back to the sheep and me, we talked about how that...
that's crazy.
But if you add lance and hand to it, then you get righteousness. So it's like when you take a lance in your hand to stab the sheep, then you now have righteousness.
That is insane.
And then we talked about boat is 8 people together makes the word for boat. Wait, but if you add 8 people and the word boat together, you get the word large ship.
That's how great the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
yeah, right.
Wait, so go back to I want to point something out. Go back.
Okay.
Literally. We'll go back to right before this one.
To the righteousness?
Righteousness. So, if it were a sword or any sort of, or axe or any sort of thing that cuts, then it would have a different, not only a different feel, the metaphor wouldn't work. A lance does one thing. It pierces.
Yep, it pierces
and
it kills.
And it kills. But it drives through. So it drives through the hands. It drives through the feet. It drives through the side. It drives through. It doesn't massacre. It's a clean piercing.
Clean cut.
Yeah, and it's a wound,
That's true, because you would think that it would be the word for a knife.
Yeah, but a knife has a blade
in your hand.
You
can do all sorts of stuff with a knife.
Right, which is more of something that's more like a nail. Well, a lance would be than a knife.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it specifically was a lance that signified that Jesus had died.
Yeah.
It wasn't a knife, it wasn't the nail, it wasn't any of the others. It was when they pierced his side, they saw that the pericardium had filled up with water.
Yeah.
And then the water and the blood came out, and they were like, okay, he's dead.
Yeah.
They knew that. Well, why would you choose to make the lance one of the words that comes in with the word for righteousness?
Yeah.
Or symbol that comes in? I mean, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So then we got the large ship. Now if we take the word 8 and the word, I keep saying word, but it's really a symbol.
Yeah.
I hope everybody understands what I mean. if you take the symbol for 8 and the symbol for united, and you add that to the symbol of earth, you get the symbol for total, which is pretty interesting. And then if you add the symbol of water to the symbol of total, you get the symbol for the word flood. So that's kind of
That's
interesting.
amazing.
So why does the word 8, why not 10? You know, why not 9 or 7 or 4? You know, but it's specifically the word 8 that's connected to the word flood. Yeah. When you take mouths plus the word 8 again, plus the word water, and you leave the word earth out of it, then you get the word to hand down or to continue something. So
Makes
8 people,
yep.
you know, after the
continuity. Yep.
Then, if you take the symbol for offend, and then you add, there's another symbol means to doubly offend, and you add the symbol for knife, which I must say right here, I'll show it in a minute, it's not the same symbol as lance. You get the symbol for to punish. So offend, doubly offend, and knife means to punish. And I'll show you. This is the symbol of a lance, and I'll show the camera here in a second, and that is the symbol for a knife.
Wow.
Here is knife, and up, can't see it. Yeah, right here. Right here is the symbol for lance. So they're different symbols.
Yeah. Clearly.
Oh, the other thing is the young earthers, I was listening to one of their Tower of Babel talks, and they said that the word China comes from the word Sina, which they believe comes from the name Shem, which I thought was interesting.
I thought it was like Shinar.
Well, that sounds pretty interesting too. Maybe it could be. Okay, so back to the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. The original name of Beijing was Beiping, I think. Did I get that right?
Now is
yeah,
Beijing,
Beiping.
Is Beijing becoming light brown? Is that the...
It is,
steadily.
Yes, but it's
Over
Beijing.
time, he's Beijing.
It becomes more light brown.
Light brown.
It's just getting dirty. It used to be
I've been
white.
out in the sun, and I've been doing some great Beijing.
Beijing.
Your Beijing looks wonderful. Thanks.
Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you. It's a similar design as the tabernacle, which I thought was interesting. I didn't get to do enough research to find out in what ways, but one of the ways is there are 3 separate parts to the tabernacle, and there are 3 separate parts to the temple of heaven.
Wow.
The number 3 shows up over and over and over. It was built during the Ming and the Qin dynasty, and it was dedicated to the supreme god, and let's see. And so the building code that you can go find the records for this predate Confucianism. It was facing the south because for some reason south was considered sacred. It has 2 circular walls that divide the grounds into an inner court and an outer part.
Right.
The Imperial Vault of Heaven actually contains idols that were added later, but some scholars say that originally there were no idols at all in the Temple of Heaven.
Yeah.
And which I think makes sense because as they fell away from worshiping Shang-Ti,
right.
That's when you start going to idols. And the first idols that were added, if I remember right, were actually idols to the departed relatives of the emperors. And so it's like, okay, well, if the people started seeing the emperor as a god, it would make sense that they would do that.
Yep.
There's one wall called the Echo Wall that has 3 echo stones, and then there's another section that has what are called the 7 star stones. Again, you get 3s and 7s that pop up all over this thing. A guy named Kuai Shun is said to have built the first temple, and so that people could worship Shang-Ti, and that goes back to the Shah dynasty. And then there was a emperor named Zhang Wang, or Zhang Wang, which is like Jackie Chan's character in Shanghai Noon.
He's also a cowboy.
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
right.
partner.
Have you seen Shanghai Noon?
No, I'm thinking John Wayne.
Yeah, well, he's it's a joke, a spoof on John Wayne.
Oh.
And what's his name? Well, who's the other guy? The blonde-headed dude? Luke, not Luke. Who's the brother? No, the two guys from Texas that they're brothers and they're both actors.
Oh, yeah. You can't possibly think I can do that. Luke
Yeah,
Wilson.
Owen his
Wilson.
brother, Owen Wilson. He says, John Wayne, that's a horrible name for a cowboy.
I like when he does the flips. He's like, you can't possibly think I can do that. I can't do that.
Anyway,
I'll work on my own Wilson.
You got to work on your own Wilson. This guy, Ju Di, killed John Wayne, and he became the emperor. And then he moved the capital to Beijing, and he wanted to rebuild the temple because apparently he either felt guilty for killing the previous emperor, or he basically was trying to solidify the people that heaven was with him, and they needed to listen to what he had to say. So he ended up rebuilding it and adding like the 3 gates and all that kind of stuff. But basically, they went back and cited this really ancient book that would support his design. And at this time, they started having the I Ching, and so they used it to kind of add. So over time, the Temple of Heaven became more and more pagan,
right?
But it wasn't originally a pagan thing. And then, of course, to go along with the yin yang thing, there's the whole dragon and phoenix decor all over the place. And then finally, I think it was in 1540 that one of the kings tore down the square hall and built a circular hall, because that's where they got into the idea that a circle represented heaven because of the expanse of the sky, and a square represented earth. And so it was the combination of heaven coming down to earth, through the sacrifice of a lamb.
That's crazy.
You know, it's
well, also
in their building.
It's funny that I think there's the descriptions in Scripture. A lot of times, it'll have like the foundations of the earth, and it almost implies a squareness to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's where the flat earthers come.
The corner,
with their
the 4
idea.
corners of the earth. Like it's like.
But really, when you're looking at a map, you're looking at something that's flattened anyway. And so that's my whole thing is like, you don't have to have a flat earth for the Bible to be accurate when it's using flat metaphors and flat language. Because all you have to do is have a map, and now you have something that's flattened. And so this is where you can't, like, I believe in trying to be as literal as you can when you're analyzing Scripture. But you can't go to the point where you're making extrapolations that are just nonsense, because God made everything and He knows how it works, and a flat Earth model simply doesn't work. You can't have just in the cosmos a flat Earth here and a sun that goes back and forth, and then just a projection of everything, because that doesn't. Well, it's stupid for one thing, but just on a scientific level, it doesn't account for certain things like the precession of the equinox. It doesn't account for
general
the planets or general physics. Yeah, I mean, it's insanity, but I don't know. I feel like we do need to address and make a flat Earth video, but it's like one of those things that I'm like, a part of me is just like, I can't believe people are that dumb. But then the other part of me is like, well, apparently they are, because there are churches in my community that are preaching this now.
Wow.
And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And I'll bet if you dug around a little bit, even in New York, you probably find a couple churches that are preaching this stuff.
I will set out and find them.
Oh, set out and find them and tell them they're wrong. Tell them to look at the Hidden Citadel.
That's right.
Anyway, I did some research this morning because I wanted to do some poking into traditional Chinese medicine, and I'm going to pop my notes up. This is my conversation that I had with ChatGPT because I didn't have a lot of time to really dig into this on my own, but I want to, I hope you guys can kind of see what's going on. Greg can't, but I'll read it to him.
I know it in spirit.
I wanted to know about one thing that stuck in my head is Greg said one time on the show we were talking about acupuncture.
Yeah.
And you said it was really weird because it knocked you out and you were like, I couldn't believe I was asleep. Right? Was that the story?
No, the acupuncturist said, "All right, everything's in. I'm going to let you rest for 10 minutes, and I'll be right back in." She turned off the lights and came back in. I felt like it was almost like, Scott Lang in Endgame, where he's like, "That's the thing. It wasn't 5 years. It was 5 hours." It was like she came back in and she goes. It felt like she left the room and came right back in, and I go, "Wow." So I didn't give it a lot of time. She goes, "You were out for 45 minutes. I couldn't wake you up." Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
so
I was
anyway,
like, wow.
my thought process went like this. I wonder if Greg or anybody out there is wondering if acupuncture has a demonic origin because of things like that. And so I started poking, and I didn't get to the bottom of whether it had a demonic origin, but I did get to the bottom that it was part of the Chinese religion when they were worshiping Shang-Ti.
Oh.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. So basically, if you go to the traditional Chinese medicine, and this isn't on my notes, but it's something that I have on another set of notes. There were herbs that are common all over the world that every herbal tradition uses. And they find out scientifically that a lot of these herbs actually work. Now, one person could argue, well, obviously they work, so everybody that messed around with those herbs probably thought, oh, they work. But let me show you my counter argument to that.
Okay.
There was a time when people thought tomatoes were poisonous.
Hey, it's my favorite.
Know.
It's my thing.
Me too. I love tomatoes.
I grow them.
And so there was a time period when certain individuals thought that tomatoes were poisonous, but other cultures, like the Italians, used tomatoes all the time.
Pomodoros.
And so just because you have one culture using a plant does not necessarily mean that another culture knows how to use that plant too, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so, but if we see the same plant being used over and over and over across lots of cultures, in my thinking, that says, okay, we have
universality.
A universality that goes back maybe to the Tower of Babel.
Yep. What we got?
And so in Chinese medicine, we have that, where they have a lot of the same. They have a lot of the same medicines, but they also have bone needles. And they believe that the bone needles, and they also have these bion stones, which are sharpened stones that they used for lancing or massage. And they would heat them up or whatever, and they still do that with the rock therapy. But these bone needles and these stones are not just found in China. They're found in lots of other cultures all over the world, which makes me think, okay, this is a medicinal practice that goes back to the Tower of Babel.
Yep.
The other thing, too, is I know we've really beat down on tattooing because it seems to have a shamanistic pagan root.
Right.
But there was also, and this is probably shamanistic too, but there was healing tattoos where they would take tattoos and they would put them on certain parts of the body in ancient Egypt or in the Yahtzee, the Iceman, in the Scandinavians, and all over the place they find mummies and remains of people that have tattoos over the same spots that the Chinese used to use for acupuncture, where they would put their needle.
Wow.
That's where some of these places would put the tattoo. So it's like,
universality.
I don't know. Yeah, and it's like, so I'm thinking that at some point, somebody knew that if you poke this nerve with a needle,
Yep.
it will take the pain away.
Yeah, it'll give
and then
healing
over
effects.
time, somebody said, oh, well, there was something about poking with a needle in this spot. Let's just make a tattoo there.
Yeah.
And I
Let's
think
mark
that's
it.
probably
Yeah.
that's probably where that
Treasure
came
map.
from.
Yeah.
And the fact that people that get tattoos get addicted to it because it releases dopamine.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, maybe there was something to, maybe it works because you feel good for a little bit
Yep.
after you got that tattoo, whereas the Chinese may have kept the actual medicinal practice that predated the Tower of Babel, and it's like maybe it was preserved by them, and am I making any sense at all?
You are.
Because it feels,
I'm following.
feels
right
like
with you.
I'm just stumbling all
No,
over
no, no.
my words.
I'm
but-
Robin to your Batman right here.
All right, woohoo! I like being Batman.
Adam West.
If I could be any Batman, it would probably be Christian Bale. He was the most. I
He was
loved
a good
him as
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
He was really good, and I really like Val Kilmer as Batman, even though the movie itself wasn't any good.
Yeah.
I thought Val Kilmer would.
He can
they
do no
should
wrong.
have given him a better Batman movie.
Yeah. It wasn't a very
But
good plot.
Yeah, he could. If they had put him in the Keaton movie, that probably would have been a pretty
I'll
good
tell you
Batman.
what. You know what's crazy is Audra's cousin who works for DC and he's an expert on Batman. You know who his favorite was the what's his name, the guy from Twilight.
Oh, really? He liked him a lot.
He said that because it was like year 2, where he was and what he was. He was almost this youthful, out of control, doesn't really know what he's doing, lost youth. That's kind of.
It does make sense for the.
There's
Batman.
rage, but there's also like obliviousness.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't refined, and
I kind of like that idea.
It's
but
really
to me,
cool.
My whole thinking about Batman is he's a very methodical kind of a person.
Yeah.
So it's almost to me like he would have practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced every possible contingency before he even once stepped foot outside to fight anybody.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the Christian Bale one, because he's like, before I go to do anything, I'm going to find the best teachers in the world to teach me how to fight, and then I'll be ready to step foot. But I do see what her cousin's saying, because
it's a cool
that
idea.
is a very good alternative.
Yeah.
But to me, that would be more the Green Arrow.
Yeah, that makes sense. But he's just saying that it's like he has the idea of it, but it was unrefined. But the rage and the sense of justice that was there. It's really interesting because
cool.
I know we're way off track, but the Ben Affleck one is it's terrible, but it's interesting
I like to
because
pretend that one didn't exist.
Well, the only thing about it is it's a depiction of old Batman, and that's like not, and it's old, kind of almost incapable now. That's what's kind of interesting about it.
I like the idea of old Batman. I really like Frank Miller's, old Batman, but I don't think that Ben Affleck really did it much justice.
No.
If I was going to have an old Batman, I would basically put him in a wheelchair. Because of all the beatings that he took. A really juiced up wheelchair. Yeah, it would be. It would be like a wheelchair with rockets.
Yeah.
And smoke screens and stuff like that. But he would definitely be like, instead of putting Batgirl in a wheelchair, I would have put Batman as an old man in the wheelchair, and somebody else would have been the new Batman, Nightwing or somebody.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're off topic, people.
In a good way.
In a good way. So we know that there's a recording of people sacrificing, because they would say, should we sacrifice to Shang-Ti for the king's illness, actually is a quotation that shows up on some of the oracle bones.
It's crazy.
So I think, there's a definite overlap between worshiping Shang-Ti and medicine, which I thought was pretty neat. Also, this is one that didn't come up in my study. The heaven plus earth plus humanity symbols is the symbol for the 3 realms, which is their concept of the cosmos, you know? So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
Well,
And they believe. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because I was just doing the devotional for the worship team, and I was pointing out in the Ark itself, Ark basically had 3 levels as well. And if you think of like what was the Ark was not just a storage facility; it was perpetuating life. So it was almost
Yeah.
like the way that the concept of the biosphere of keeping things alive or preserving Earth or what was creation despite everything around it. So with that, you do have animals, and you have animals for sacrifice. You have animals to eat. You have animals that would perpetuate life. But then also you have the depiction of the 3 levels, which would be the heavens, the earth, and the under the earth. So it's almost
Yep.
like the 3 levels were also necessary in the ark itself to depict what life had to continue as, which is
Yes.
as the was within the ark. So as with when after the ark, it would perpetuate to become in the the heavens and the earth and the under the earth.
Yeah, and the animals that were multiplied, that were sacrificial animals,
Yeah.
it was as if they were planned out to be like, okay, you have enough animals
Yeah.
to last you for about 3 or 4 years after the ark.
Yep.
So that way you're going to be okay to sacrifice
Yeah.
and to continue making sacrifices until the stock of livestock grows.
Isn't that fascinating that idea? I mean, when you read those things, like for instance, in Exodus, when they're given the Israelites are given all the laws of the temple and all of their practices of what they have to do with sacrificing, it'll say, all right, you're going to take the olive oil, and you're going to use the olive oil for this. So it's suggesting that they're going to have fruitfulness in their farming,
Yep.
which it's always going to be available for them to use for the temple, which means they're going to be provided for and have a
Yep.
richness and a prosperity of sorts, not of finance, but of life and fruitfulness, that what they're being given in order for them to live, but also to use, will be perpetual, which be divinely perpetual, which means
Yep.
that they are blessed.
Yep.
It implies that you're going to be given this. What are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to give it back to the Lord.
Yeah, giving it back.
Yeah.
Yep, and say thank you for
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
The Zhou dynasty, I think I pronounced that poorly, but it's from 1046 to 256 BC, was kind of the transition into natural philosophy. So, oh wait a minute, I skipped one. Disease during the earlier period was this idea that the moral or cosmic order had been violated. And so that was why their medicine was developed, was because disease was a violation of the cosmic order. So then around the Zhou dynasty was when they started getting more and more of a philosophical stance. The idea of the yin yang theory and the 5 elements, or the Wu Jing, began to emerge, and they gave the kind of the framework for their understanding of balance in the body and the cosmos. And so the doctors at that time began to describe illness as disharmony between the natural forces, where they were under the rule of heaven, which is the word Tian, and they were still governed, that heaven still governed these forces. And it hadn't kind of grown into this idea that they were balanced forces, but they were balanced because heaven kept them in balance, And then the classical codification happened during the Han Dynasty, which was from 206 to 220 AD, 206 BC to 220 AD. And this is when the traditional Chinese medicine became a systematized body of medical theory. And the big texts that they use are the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon and the Divine Farmer's Classic of Materia Medica, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Chinese names. But in the Yellow Emperor's book, you still had a semi-divine figure, a lot like Shang-Ti. It's just he kind of is starting to not be as powerful as the original Chinese thought of him. Did you miss that part?
No, I got it.
In the yellow... Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So the overlap between traditional Chinese medicine and Shang-Ti worship is the idea of cosmic order. The Shang-Ti maintained the heaven, the earth, and humans in harmony, and health was a reflection of the yin yang and the five elements in balance that was also governed by Shang-Ti.
Wow.
The moral law is illness is results from offending heaven, and then later the ancestors, and that was emotional, ethical imbalance disrupting your internal harmony. And one way to appease heaven was to do a sacrifice. In the medicine, it was to use herbal formulas, acupuncture, and diet to restore harmony.
Yeah.
And then divination came in later, and it became a part of figuring out what heaven wanted by using oracle bones and to determine the cause of illness. So it was like when they couldn't quite make a sacrifice and get healing, then they started turning to divination,
Yeah.
just like every other
Every other culture. Yeah.
did too.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
You know what's so funny about that? You see that? You see, like, okay, in baseball, there's such that practice because baseball has a lot of baseball players in a lot of ways. They start off as scientists because the ball has to travel a certain way. You have to keep your eye. You have to know where it's going to go. It's spinning. You have it's all physics. The ball
and
has
how
to.
you hit the ball is
where
going to angle one way or another.
It's all where your level is. It's everything that happens in baseball is very intricate physics, and the baseball players have a very good understanding how to anticipate the object in motion, where it's going, where the angle you have to take in order to intercept it, all those kinds of things. And yet, the first thing that a batter does or anybody does in order to try to influence the physics of something, the science of something, is to start the superstitious practice of I do this 3 times, I do this 12, I say this, I do this, I tap the bat, I do. So it's like they add this religion to the science of something. That's
true.
It's so fascinating. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, okay, so then
it shows what happens, the phenomenon of the moving away from the gradual turning away, and
that's exactly what I noticed.
Yeah.
Because the at the end of the whole thing, ChatGPT was basically telling me shamanism started first, and then it developed into the Shang-Ti worship, and then it went back into shamanism. I was like, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
And I said, what about the idea that the Neolithic bone needles were from the time range around the same time as the Tower of Babel? Are we 100% certain that shamans came first, or could shamanism have developed from a survival migration?
Right.
And basically it came back and it was like, well, that's completely interesting and new thinking about the whole process. And it was like, when it got all the way done, I'm not going to read everything that it spit out, but it basically came to the conclusion that yes, it really could be that shamanism came after the migration as kind of a result of the establishment of the original dynasties of China.
Yeah.
And so so this is what it gave me. I'm going to skip right to this. It said, the conventional academic stance, most historians assume that shamanism came first, developing naturally as early humans sought to explain illness and death before agriculture and writing. And in that view, shamanism is seen as a proto-religion, and healing rituals arose from animistic beliefs that spirits cause disease. Medicine developed later as humans observed cause and effect. But from your Babel framework, your proposed view flips that. Humanity began with a unified divine knowledge, both spiritual and practical, which fragmented after Babel. And so under that model, the earliest humans after the flood had genuine divine knowledge from Noah's line about healing, plants, diets, and the balance of nature. After Babel, the knowledge was scattered and corrupted into regional systems, some retaining fragments of truth, others merging with superstition. Shamanism may not have preceded Babel. It may have be the degraded echo of a once unified sacred science.
Awesome.
In other words, the shamans weren't the originators, they were the inheritors of a broken wisdom. And so what that shows us is that across the world, shamanistic societies all began to pop up. Which, what's our premise? If something appears over and over and over in lots of societies, that must mean that it's an echo of the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
Well, in this case, just the very fact that there are shamanistic societies all over the world show that maybe they're not just the natural step in a religious system, but maybe they're the natural step away from a religious system. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. Yeah.
All right, Robin.
It's a deviation.
So the early Chinese shamans, which were called Wu, and then if you later you say Wu Jin, that's a wizard, you know, or a wise man. Were intermediaries between heaven and earth, which strongly resembled the ancient priest-king function that you see in Mesopotamia, Egyptian, and even the patriarchal system of the Bible.
The Melchizedek.
Exactly. Or even Abraham or Job, you know,
they're both
sacrificing.
And
so
that's right.
That means that the bone needles and the beyond stones that are found in the Neolithic sites, which date from 3,500 to 3,000, are striking for this theory because they're not crude tools. They actually show a purposeful design for puncturing and stimulating specific points. So if the Babel dispersion happened around this time, they could represent the earliest remnants of post-dispersion applied healing knowledge, the physical remains of a once unified system of body balance, which is what the Chinese later called the Qi flow. And so I'm not trying to advocate for traditional Chinese medicine as the go-to thing. Go get acupuncture or any of that. Go jump into Chinese medicine. I don't know, but what I'm saying, the only thing that I'm really saying is traditional Chinese medicine exists. And therefore, if it exists, it had to have a root cause.
It sure did.
And if it had a root cause, where was that root cause? And when we go back to 3,500 BC, and we see that root cause, and it lines up with where the Septuagint, not the Masoretic, says that the Tower of Babel incident happened, then now we're getting into something that says, oh, maybe the Tower of Babel incident actually did happen. You know? What do you think about that?
I think that's the line of... well, you know what I think about that. I mean, the line of thinking is exactly when I mean, the reasoning involved, you go, all right, where do kind of things come from? You got to, and you're tracing it back. When you do see universality, you kind of go, all right, what are those traits that are causing that? It's not genetic. It's not random. It's usually taught.
So what would be your next question as a scientist if you're going to say, oh, okay, bone needles in China, they came from somewhere. Wouldn't the next obvious question be, well, does any other culture have bone needles in China? And the answer is yes. So you've got Eurasian and African parallels where they found bones and bronze bone and bronze awls near dead bodies, near the ice mummies in Siberia and Central Asia. In Egypt, you have metal lancelets and obsidian scalpels. In the Mesopotamian area, you have the mention of physicians using sharpened reeds to lance boils and to release demons that cause illness. In the ancient Greece, they had certain vivisection and cupping where they heat up the cups and put it, which is an Asian thing too.
They do that right now in physical therapy schools.
Exactly. And so in Africa, Nubia, Sudan, and Ethiopia, you've got tattooed mummies. And even in the Americas, the Arctic Inuits, the Aleut peoples, and all of them had, and all the way down to South American mummies.
I was going to say South America,
show these tattoos on joints where the meridian lines that Chinese doctors are inked out or, writ out many, many years ago.
Wow.
So anyway, all that shows up in these different countries and cultures, and so I was saying, was there anything else in the Chinese culture that kind of shows a connection? And so the idea of a supreme god is one of them. Sacrificial patterns show up. Flood memory shows up.
Yep.
Language structure of other other languages actually have similarities to the way that the Chinese symbols work. There's the cosmology of creation and order pop up over and over in other cultures.
Yep.
Moral philosophy and law do.
Yep.
And then finally, the pyramids, which we mentioned earlier. There are pyramids in China,
Everywhere.
and the ziggurat structure pops up everywhere.
Everywhere,
But
yeah.
but the other one that's really, really cool is the sexagesimal, the base 60 cycle that's used by the Mesopotamians is almost identical to the early Chinese calendars that they used.
Wow.
And that goes along with the whole zodiac and
Yeah.
everything that we talked about in that one. So those are just some things that I'm looking at that I'm like, these are popping up over and over and over again all over the world. And so the big question that I really have at this point is, what does an acupuncture pedal do? An acupuncture pedal, Josh Scott.
Yes. We need the acupuncture pedal.
It has to pierce and heal at the same time.
I'm trying to think of what that would do. It's, I feel like they have to do something with like waveforms and out of phase.
Maybe, yeah, or a little icicle
Synchronous,
tinkling
asynchronous. Yeah.
Bell chimes in the background or something.
The fourths. Harmony and fourths.
That's what it is.
That's so bad.
There you go, Josh Scott. Give us a fourths pedal. We need it.
Acupuncture. Yeah.
The acupuncture pedal. Anyway, I haven't written this up as an article. This is just some preliminary research that I'm doing.
That's amazing.
But I do have some other cool articles over at Hidden Citadel 4.wordpress.com that you really ought to go check out, because this is the kind of rabbit trail that we have gotten to be. It's kind of our calling card. We like to go down the rabbit trails and look for connections.
Batman.
And I kind of feel like the Tower of Babel event is sort of the smoking gun for Genesis.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you prove that the Tower of Babel event happened, it kind of lays out that everything else is feasible.
Yeah.
Go get one of our t-shirts at redbubble.com if you love us and you want to support us. There's other things there too that you can get. Not just t-shirts. We have bags and mugs and pants, hats, everything.
Yeah.
And then we have millions of books out now. Not really millions, but we do have quite a... Water Moccasin Press has published quite a few books over the years.
That's right.
Starting with our TOB book, which was connected to the Tower of Babel as well.
Might be.
Maybe, yeah. We got our Parable of the Talons that Greg wrote, and our friend Scott Harshbarger
Amazing artist.
was a great artist, and I'm just want to send out prayers to Scott, because I heard that one of his really good friends passed away this week.
Yeah.
So Scott, we're praying for you. We love you, and hang in there.
Yeah.
You can get our Encyclopedia of Weird Crap Volume 1. Volume 2 is on its way. I am trying to get it out there. Parafables Volume 1 is out. And all my Mandolin Deadman's tuning books, Hard Rain,
Ren Fair.
what else? The Ren Fair Magic book, Lyrics and Music.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of books out there that you can check out. Fairies, there's Jesus, Son of God. A lot of different books that you can look up. If you look up our names, you will find them.
Yep.
And then there's our music. The Brothers Graham and the Fantastic Flying Frogs have music out there. And is there anything else that we have forgotten to include?
No, they just need to find us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook.
Yeah, and please share. If you share it with your friends, if you've got a friend that you think would be interested in our stuff, then check us out and let us know. And if I offended you poor feminists out there, I'm sorry. But we're toxic males, so we can't help that.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have a great day. God bless you, and stay in the Citadel, because
Night is coming.
watchmen replies, morning is coming, but night will soon return.